Hello and welcome to another week of the Mike Leaf Show right here on the Warrior Sports Network. I'm Cory Prudoehl, joined as always by the head men's basketball coach, Mike Leaf. Coach, another good weekend for you. Continue to play well at home. A couple victories over Bemidji State and Minnesota Crookston. Just overall, what did you think of your team's performance?
Well, I thought it was pretty good. We talked last week about our rebounding and about our defensive positioning, and like I said, we were working on it all week. And our performance from shooting the ball from the outside, and certainly saw improvements in those areas, but particularly, in our defense. And not just this weekend, but you're trying to prep yourself for games ahead and just trying to get better at that defense because we're not the biggest, the tallest team, and everybody's got a box out. So I was glad to see that.
Friday against Bemidji State, you had 75-68 win. You had 4 players in double figures. Do you like that balance that you're able to see most of the time, or is it best to have a guy that goes off if you have a different guy that goes for 25 or 30 in a night?
Well, that's not bad when you're saying 25 or so, but I definitely like balanced scoring. We've seen some teams that have done like a little box and one and stuff on Riley Bamanick, and we certainly have other guys that can score. So I think it's so much more difficult to scout a team when they do have good scoring, balanced scoring. So that was good to see. But I don't think he didn't even score on.
Riley didn't score on.
He didn't score on Friday. Yeah. So so it worked out pretty good that first night. Right. But no, I definitely like the balance.
But that being said, you did have a guy go off on Friday as Isaiah Gray scored 28 points and had a fantastic performance. Followed it up with 13 points on Saturday as well, so he earned NSIC Player of the Week for the South Division. Talk a little bit about Isaiah's progression and his performance this weekend.
Well, I think the biggest thing, Cory, is that they with him is that he's really never been a true point guard, and he's moving into that role right now. He has a little bit of difficulty. He used to play more of a 2-guard, so he did take the ball a lot to the basket. And the difficulty for him is being able to, he does a good job at just seeing the floor and finding guys that are open on that perimeter and making that decision, should I go finish or should I get the kick out? And that's what he's really been working on and doing a pretty nice job of. Because, it's amazing the shots he gets off, but there's also been some games in which it was tough to get him off. And so, again, having that inside-outside game, you've got to have those guys on the outside hitting those shots. So we were working this past week with him, and we had Corey, Jeff Souther, and Tim Wagner at the same time. I said, let's get it to those 2 shooters. That's your goal. You cannot score during this 10-minute period. And he really did a nice job. So I think he's learning as we go. But his performance, was great over the weekend. It really was. Yep. If they want to target Riley or anybody else, the guy gets it done, and a big category you don't see is that he gets us a lot of rebounds.
Right. Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah, for a 6-foot-tall guy, you got to I think there's multiple times this year where he's been the team's leading rebounder. So that must.
Yeah, he reads the ball and flights so well from a 3-point shot, and he's heading in that direction. He's got good hops, and boy, he comes down with it. So it's. Yeah, he does a great job.
And if other teams start to see that, hey, you have another scorer that can go off for 25, 30 on a night, as he's done that twice this year now, is that going to open things up for Riley? Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I think he's a little frustrated over the fact that, he'll get a guy that just basically face guards him and follows him all around. So, we've got, this weekend, we've got a team that'll actually do a little box and one, so I'm sure we'll see that on Riley as well. But it frees it up for him for sure.
And then talk a little bit about the next night, Minnesota Crookston, 20-point win over them. Played pretty well. You made, I think, 57% of your shots from the field. So one of your highest percentage shooting nights of the season. So were you happy with that one?
Yeah, really happy with it. And we've just got to carry that over now to the road. And I just can't put my finger on it. We get our shoot-arounds and we do a pretty good job. But, we're going to mix up a couple things on our next road trip and see if that helps out. But no, seeing us shoot that well, that's great. And Crookston, actually, a lot of people don't know, is they were number 2 in the league for percentage-wise. I think it was like 33% that they gave up from the 3-point line. They were second in the conference. So they got a heck of a defense for 3-point shooters. So for us to be able to do that, it was a feather in our hat. And so hopefully that, we can carry that on.
And then lastly, we talked a lot about the guards with Isaiah and Riley. Yeah. But Kyle Bauman also had a career-high scoring night as well, and they get 4 blocks on Saturday as well. So how's his progression been, and is he starting to become a better offensive player as well?
Yeah, I think, I told you about that. He basically was sick for the month of December and early January. And so now he still coughs, believe it or not, but at least he feels good. And so, he said the other day, he goes, this is the best I've felt in a long time. And he's been making his 10-footers, 12-footers. He's gotten a couple inside, and that's huge for us. Just to bring their center out 12 feet from the hole, that gives, for instance, your Isaiah Grays the opportunity to take it to the hole. So I think he's just going to get back in the thick of things and do a much better job now that we've gotten him back where he's 90% healthy. So that's a good thing.
Yep, absolutely. And well, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, now you take it to the road for a couple weeks, starting with St. Cloud State and Minnesota Duluth. We'll be back a little bit later in the week to talk about those tough road matchups right here on the Mike Leaf Show on the Warrior Sports Network.